Welcome back, McElroy Cubelic in the morning, hour number 2. Don't worry, for those of you that are panicking or concerned about us breaking down these quarterfinal matchups, we're going to do such a deep dive breakdown, it's going to make your head spin. So just stay with us, I promise you. We have lots of time to get to it, but the transfer portal is a hot topic of debate, guys, and we will not be on the air between now and when the transfer portal officially opens. So this is kind of our time to set the table. Right now, Auburn's got 20 guys in the transfer portal. And for everyone that's panicking, understand this is very normal. This is very normal when there's a coaching transition, there's a coaching change. And to help us make sense of it, we'll bring on Andy Burcham. He's brought to us every week, our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
The voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, on Mac and Cube in the Morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lifted, buy and rented, the big dog's got it. Now, Andy Burcham.
Well, Andy, could not ask for a better day for you to come on. Because I'm telling you, man, like my phone yesterday, I have not had my phone blow up faster from a player jumping in the portal than it did yesterday as it related to Cam Coleman. I'm blowing up Auburn fans, Bama fans, fans of other SEC schools thinking they're going to be in the mix. Like, what was your immediate reaction yesterday when you found out he was going in?
Well, that's the biggest name so far, and I know that there's a lot that have jumped in to the transfer portal, and January 2nd is the day that teams can start to sign. The transfer portal window officially opens at that point. And when all of this took place and Hugh Freeze was let go, and then Alex Golesh was brought in as Auburn's head coach, and there were some names, I think, that the Auburn faithful were hoping that would stay at Auburn. And I guess at this point they still can. Although when you jump into the portal, I think that's a pretty good indication that they're going to be moving on. But that was the guy. When you heard, well, if this guy goes, okay, but we need to keep. And Cam Coleman was the guy. So I think that is what has triggered it more than anything else, and perhaps just the numbers for Auburn. But that's a guy that is an outstanding talent, was just really, really good for Auburn in his 2 seasons, and to me was the best one-on-one wide receiver that I saw, at least that I saw in games all season long in the Southeastern Conference, was Cam Coleman. He was a guy that teams just could not guard. Auburn could throw him that back shoulder fade. He could make the play. He could make the jump ball catch in the end zone, and he did that for Auburn, especially down the stretch of this season. And so when that happened, I can understand the reaction of it. But it is the day and age that we're in right now that when there is a coaching change, as you mentioned, that this is going to happen. It is disappointing to lose a guy like Cam Coleman because he is so very good, and a guy that's local from Central of Phoenix City. So it is tough to deal with, but this staff is gearing up now for what will be, well, it may be the most important transfer portal time, the short time that we've had in the transfer portal that Auburn has had, because there are so many that Auburn needs to fill, that so many spots, not only at wide receiver, but I think just as important, or maybe even more important, is up front on the offensive line and the defensive line for the Tigers right now.
Well, and I think Cam Coleman's special talent for sure. But I look at the production and 7 drops, and yes, a threat on every down that he's on the field for sure. But he had 89 targets this year to Malcolm Simmons' 39. He doubled him up and some in targets, and yet Malcolm Simmons averaged more yards per catch, more yards after catch, and I think is a tremendous weapon as well. And yet when he went on the portal, it was like, all right, so long. When Cam Coleman went in the portal, it was like, hang on a second, like Malcolm Simmons was really good. You didn't care. Now Cam Coleman's in. It's like, oh my God, the world is over. Like we should cancel next season. Why is there such a difference in reaction?
Because it happened so late. I think it happened in addition to Malcolm Simmons and Perry Thompson, guys like that have gone already to the portal, and I think it was a culmination of so many things. The fact that there are so many on that portal list that continues, that Auburn now has to fill at this point. And listen, he was the guy. And I know Malcolm Simmons is a terrific talent and was really good for Auburn, and was a guy that not only you could put out there for the Tigers and was really good in the Iron Bowl this year, but also a guy that you could use as a returner as well. So those are guys. I mean, and but it was at the end, before the transfer portal actually opens up on Friday. This was a guy that he was. If you polled, I think, the Auburn family and said, all right, what is the one guy that we cannot lose? I think it was Cam Coleman. I think that in the mind of the Auburn fans, that was the guy they cannot. And so this happened at the end. It happened after you've already lost a couple guys in the portal at that wide receiver room. And I understand everything you're saying, but that guy is a tremendous talent. And to lose him at the end it's got to be disappointing, because I think Auburn did its best to try and negotiate with Cam to keep him for his junior season coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely disappointing. I understand the disappointment, but I guess I think, and the way I compared it, I compared Auburn to a classic car that has not necessarily been taken care of. And it needs new upholstery. It needs a new paint job. It needs a new transmission. They got to make sure the stick shift doesn't stall. They got to make sure that the air conditioning's working. They need a new radio. They need new tires, and they need new rims. There's a lot of things that they need. So to spend 3/4 of your budget on a paint job, to me, didn't make sense. So I think let him test the market. If it works out, maybe he can come back. If it doesn't, by all means, we'll try to fill the void with 2 or 3 other guys that might be able to do comparable things from a replacement theory. Now, it's Moneyball. It's Billy Bean Moneyball theory for sure. Let your stars walk. Bring in a bunch of guys that fill a role. But that might be where you have to go when resources are not endless like they once were. Andy, can you get on board with that?
Well, it's not the only need that Auburn has for the portal. I mean, you take a look at Auburn's starting offensive line, and with Connor Lew declaring for the NFL draft, every one of your starters from a year ago is gone at this point. So that is an enormous need for whoever is the Auburn quarterback, whether it's Deuce Knight or the rumors out there that someone's coming in at this point. So you've got to completely rebuild your offensive line, and you've got to do that regardless of who you have in the wide receiver room right now. You've got to do a pretty big job of rebuilding the defensive line, interior defensive line, and at both rush ends as well. So losing a guy like Cam Coleman isn't the only need that you have at this point. And there are several needs for the Tigers. And up front, I think in talking with Joel Gordon a couple weeks ago for War Eagle Plus, and in talking with Auburn's defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin, as well. And this is before and during a lot of names that were out there at this point. The thing they talked about was line. That's when we talk specifically about the transfer portal, it was up front, both guys. And that need continues. That need is constant for this Auburn team right now. Yeah, you've got to rebuild somewhat that wide receiver room as well. The good thing is you can do it now in the transfer portal. There's going to be a lot of new names on this Auburn basketball, on this Auburn. There was a lot of names on the Auburn basketball team. There's going to be a lot of new names for this Auburn football team as well.
Yeah, there is. That's for sure. As we visit with Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers. Andy, as you look at where Auburn goes, and I would ask you about basketball, but I feel like we're going to have so many weeks to talk to you about basketball. I feel like with the portal coming up, it should be of the highest levels of importance for us to discuss where they're going in this scenario. Where do you think Auburn will focus? Do they go after a quarterback? Byron Brown's the name that everyone seems to think and wonder about. USF starter coming up to Auburn and being the guy. I don't know if that's a slam dunk by any stretch, but what do you think are the highest levels of priority for this staff beyond the lines that you just discussed?
Well, and I've not talked with this staff. So this is just my opinion, and as I kind of read the tea leaves, so to speak, right now, I think offensive line has to be an enormous commitment for Auburn right now. I mean, you've got to replace your entire offensive line. It's going to be a brand new offensive line. You've got some guys that are there. Cale Ellis, so I think had a good freshman season. He has to be the guy that you look to, I would think, right now at the center spot. But I think, and as far as the portal is concerned, you've got to look at the offensive line. I think you have to look at the interior defensive line as well. And then a wide receiver, sure. You've got to look there. I mean, if all three of those guys that have already declared go, then you've lost three of your very best. So I think from an offensive standpoint, offensive line is a must. Wide receiver room, I think you've got to help yourself at tight end as well, because I think tight end is really important in an Alex Golish offense. That's where he has coached from a position standpoint more than anywhere else in his career until he became the head coach. Defensively, I think you've got to look at the defensive front, at the nose, at the defensive tackle, and at the defensive end, and then the edge spot as well. So I think those are the three spots for Auburn right now. And then at the corners, I mean, you've got two guys in Jay Crawford and Can Lee that have said they're going to enter the portal. And as you mentioned, Mac, I mean, because they have declared for the portal right now, doesn't mean that they couldn't come back or couldn't remain at Auburn. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens when the portal opens on Friday.
Yeah, and this is a weird year too, because this is the new first year really with the rev share. And a lot of people have front-loaded contracts, so they have some money here, but it's just, this is going to kind of calm down, and the market might not be as lucrative. This year, I think it might be, but next year, the market's going to become less and less lucrative as rev share and authentic NIL becomes a big part of these decisions. So, going to be fascinating to watch. Andy, always appreciate your time, my friend, and thanks so much for all you do. And as always, you're brought to us by our friends at CraneWorks.
And CraneWorks is the most trusted name for crane and equipment rental in the Southeast for over 30 years. They have a fleet of cranes ranging from 2.5 tons to 500 tons. CraneWorks also offers trained and certified operators and riggers to make sure that the job is done right. Locations in Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and now Huntsville. Visit craneworks.com for more info. Have a great week. War Eagle.
That was Andy Burcham. He joined us on the Higginbotham hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. We'll continue with more McElroy and Cubelic in the morning next, right here on Jocks.
8:16 here on Jocks. Reminder, download the Jocks app. Take us with you wherever you go. You can listen, watch, and download all at the touch of a button, really, with technology. Ryan Haney, John Saber, Greg McElroy will join here again in just a few minutes after he finishes up First Take. And our thanks to Andy Burcham, who joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. All right, let's get into the college football playoff. Greg, I know, is going to do a deep dive on the X's and O's on that. But let's talk globally. Let's go back, John, to last year. What did we see on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day? We saw a clean sweep. And what was that clean sweep of? It was of teams that played in the first round beating the teams that had the byes. You look at the matchups this year, and I'm not asking for you to go give me all four predictions at once or anything like that, but I'd be interested in your opinion, and then also the listeners at 800-239-WJOX, if they would like to call in as well. Do you see that again, with there being an inherent advantage for the teams that played 2 weeks ago? Or do you think that was just maybe coincidence and a one-off, and the teams that had the byes this year will fare better in these next four games?
I do think last year was a bit of circumstance to have all of the teams that weren't rested end up losing. Because I do think some of it also, you had two conference champs that arguably probably shouldn't have been in there, at least one for sure in terms of Arizona State. While I do think they were a good team,
Right.
They were ranked 15, 16, whatever, somewhere kind of in there, and then that mid to high teens. Boise, they were a top 10 team. I think they deserved to be there, but I do think Penn State was a much better team, and okay, fine. But I think they play that. I think they were. I think they benefited from seeding a good bit this year. I don't think you don't have nearly as much of a like these teams maybe that got the byes don't deserve their spots, and so I think you maybe are getting a little bit of what is Texas Tech, and that's a little bit potentially unsure. But every other team that has a bye with Indiana, Georgia, and Ohio State, not only do they deserve to be there, I think they're a team that definitely can win it all. I just think the big question is going to be is not playing for a month after they've been playing basically 14 out of 16 weeks. Is that too much time off?
So you say, what is Texas Tech, right? I wrote that down because I do think that's something, not everybody sees every game from every conference every weekend. Some people may not follow along until it gets November, closer to the postseason. So is that what is Indiana from last year to you? Like, where'd this team come from? How are they there? I mean, we know that they've spent a lot in the portal, but you still got to make it work.
It is, but it isn't, because Indiana, I don't want to say they were surprising, but I think Texas Tech is just unsure because all we really know out of them is that we've seen them beat up Big 12 squads. And even so, they couldn't make that unscathed. They stepped out of conference and it was like, okay, I mean, like they won, but okay, didn't look all that great. Arizona State, to be fair, with a backup quarterback, was able to handle them. So they've won and won convincingly in nearly all the games, but what is the Big 12? And that's where it's like, what is Texas Tech? Like, we've seen them dominate opponents.
Their defense, man, though.
It does look very, very good, but
if they get down, I think you were talking about it earlier this morning, I was listening, if they get down and Dante Moore's hot and they're able to run the ball a little bit, can they come back from 2 touchdowns?
Because we haven't seen that, right? Everything about everything Texas Tech is experiencing right now is completely new. They haven't really handled this kind of success. They haven't been in this college football playoff. They haven't had to take a month off and then play. Everything is new to them.
So and that's why I think these four matchups are all fascinating. So you turn it to Indiana and Alabama, right? And people still don't want to give Indiana the credit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if they let's say Indiana wins, right? Okay, so they knocked off Ohio State and Alabama back-to-back. Are you going to give them their due? Also, why are you writing off Alabama? Their 1-85 rosters, in my opinion, better than Indiana's.
Which is why I do think this matchup is absolutely intriguing, but
they've got one of the best coaches in the country, just like Indiana does. But here's what I like about Indiana and Alabama. It's what you're saying with Texas Tech. We've seen both these teams battle back on the road. Alabama did it at Oklahoma. They did it at South Carolina. They did it at Auburn. Indiana did it at Penn State. Looked like they were left for dead there in Happy Valley. Found a way to win. So both these teams have done it.
And done it on the other side, too. Had the lead, seen it shrunk, and then held on to get that, too. So they found ways to not only come from behind, but also stave off the comeback, yes.
Right. But so I think both those teams, that's fascinating. You know, the Georgia-Ole Miss thing, or people discounting because, here's the thing with Pete Golding, right? There's just some – think of the nice way to say this. I think there's probably going to be some people that won't give the guy a fair shot or don't think he's a good football coach because they have their opinions about what, would happen, or they didn't like certain things, say, when he was in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
But why are we writing off Ole Miss? I mean, I know, look, if you told me when the bracket was announced, someone did ask me, he said, okay, your initial reaction, I said, I think Georgia wins it because I think they're playing the best football of anybody right now.
That's how I felt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a month. And I know Ole Miss, Tulane didn't put up much of a fight, and a lot of that's because of Ole Miss. But why are we discounting Ole Miss? Because Pete Golding's in there, not Lane Kiffin?
It's if you listen to fans, half this game won't be watched because you've got Pete Golding on one side and Mike Bobo, who apparently can't call an offense for Georgia. So when they're on offense and Ole Miss is on defense, both fan bases will probably turn it off because they can't stand them.
Which to me, this is the game that's been talked about the least. To me, I'm actually probably more excited about this game than any of the other three.
With everyone saying, "Oh, it's tough to beat a team a second time. It's tough to see," and we've seen a lot of rematches go one way, and then when they get the rematch, they go the other. And let's not forget, Ole Miss ran up and down this Georgia team in Athens. Yes, Georgia found a way to get the win, which is why ultimately I do think they end up winning it, but Georgia showed that they are completely vulnerable to this type of offense. And now you've got a Trinidad Chambliss that feels a little bit more comfortable. He's feeling himself and knows what to expect and face from a Georgia defense. And the Georgia defense has been shown to be susceptible to a quarterback like Trinidad that can make plays not only with his arms, with his legs. Yeah, Ole Miss stands a really good shot at beating this. And plus, again, you're not having to go into the belly of the beast in Athens. This is more or less a fully neutral site. Now, I do think a good number of Georgia fans will probably be there because I think they were already expecting this. And, okay, yeah, we know we'd be there as opposed to Ole Miss. Like, if we got the home game and having to pay for this.
Yeah, but I don't know, though, because I think Georgia fans probably have penciled in that next trip as well. I think you're gonna have a big Ole Miss contingency there.
I wouldn't be surprised with that because it's easily drivable to there. I mean, it's a hefty drive, but you can get there in a day.
No, look, Georgia's defense. I get why some people are like that. I get why they think that. It's just it's going to, especially the last time we saw Georgia take the field, the last two times really the way they manhandled Georgia Tech and Alabama and suffocated them with their defense. I mean, I get why folks see that, but I'm like, Ole Miss has been consistent all year scoring points.
And one thing to note, and Pete Golding brought this up in post game for Tulane, whether or not this is Lane Kiffin's offense, Charlie Weiss was calling those plays. He's been calling them all year. He said Charlie Weiss, like the one who wanted to call the best game was Charlie Weiss because he wanted it known that, like, I've been the play caller all year. Like this is me. So with Lane gone, people actually see I've been doing this all year. And so he knows what to do. He knows how to attack that defense. And I think he will be able to.
Okay. So take Alabama out of it because that's the team we cover.
Okay, right.
One of the other three games, I'm fascinated to hear what listeners think because, look, I realize we're large. There's a lot of Alabama fans that are vested in this. If you say, which game are you looking forward to the most, we're going to get Alabama, Indiana. But outside of that, I'm interested in what you and others have to think as well. They can call or text in at 205-834-9450, 205-834-9450. Of the other three, John Saber, which game are you looking forward to sitting down and watching the most, and why?
Of those three, it's Ohio State, Miami.
Why?
Because I think going into the playoffs, even though Indiana beat them, I felt Ohio State top to bottom was the best team. And I thought Indiana put on the best performance in their opening round game. And so to get that matchup, I think that game is the most intriguing to me.
Okay.
Especially since, we'll take Alabama and Indiana out of it. We've seen Ole Miss and Georgia before. Yes, it should still be exciting, and I have a feeling we're going to get, but we're still not quite sure. And Oregon, Indiana, Oregon, Texas Tech, I could see that going either way. But with this one, if both teams are playing up to their potential, this could be fireworks, and that's what excites me.
Right. I almost went there, and my reason for that, the reason that one is the way Ohio State performed in the Big Ten championship game. You know, they didn't perform very well offensively.
Right.
Well, the play caller's gone, and now Ryan Day's taking over. But I'm going to go. I think it's the first game for me on New Year's Day. I know I kind of said Georgia Ole Miss, but I'm real fascinated to see this Texas Tech defense. And if Oregon can remain hot on offense, and they get a couple of players back, and Texas Tech falls behind, do they have what it takes to come back, which we mentioned just a few minutes ago. 205-834-9450, taking your text and your calls. Which game outside of Alabama, Indiana are you looking forward to watching the most? And throw in a why here with the college football playoff. If you're in Birmingham, you can listen to all 4 of the games on Jocks 94.5 or anywhere around the country on the Jocks mobile app as well. .831 here on Jocks all around the state, on the Jocks Network, and all around the country on the Jocks mobile app. Your calls, your text. Which college football playoff game are you looking forward to seeing the most? Again, we're taking Alabama, Indiana out of it because we understand that's probably the game of the most interest in the listening area. You can call or text that in at 205-834-9450. Jeremy texts in, says, Ole Miss and Georgia, for the reasons you said earlier. Can Ole Miss compete without Lane? You touched on that a few minutes ago. and I thought brought up a good point. Charlie Weiss Jr. called this offense all year long. Sure, Lane had some feedback into it, but are we not giving enough credit to Charlie Weiss Jr.?
I guess because Lane was the head guy, it's not like the quarterback going to get all the credit and all the blame. Even if the defense ends up losing you the game, the quarterback will somehow get the blame or also the credit. And because it's Lane's offense, he was going to, or at least Lane was at the helm, whether or not it was his offense, he was going to get all of the credit for it. And so to see Ole Miss, at least, granted I know it was a lesser opponent, but at least seemingly not skip a beat and keep that status quo, keep that train rolling, like it's like, okay, like we know that Charlie Weiss Jr. can call those plays and look like the team didn't look any different as they had all year. Now, I know the competition is about to get drastically different, but this is the team that Charlie Weiss Jr. has faced. He's seen, he knows, he beat them last year. Like, he knows what it takes. And sadly, maybe it's just the defense that let them down and couldn't get a stop when they really needed to. Because that's one thing that's kind of forgotten in this game is that Georgia didn't punt at all. Georgia either scored or knelt to run out the clock. So if Pete Golding and that defense can dial up and find a way, just get one stop, that may be all that Ole Miss needs. Because I know that they'll be able to call the plays and execute the offense to at least, if not move the ball, score points.
Sydney Montevella texted in, said, Ohio State, Miami, will either team be able to score? That's a good point. I think the total in that one's, 42, 43? I don't have it pulled up. Somewhere right in there, John. Yeah. But, again, you saw early on going back to Texas A&M and Miami, right? Like that's actually a pretty good point by Sydney. Both teams, you could tell, were trusting their defense, right? It's like neither team really wanted to make a mistake.
No, yeah.
And then there at the end, the game played out that way. Will Ohio State deploy the same game plan? I tend to think Ryan Day is going to be a lot more aggressive with all the weapons he has on offense, especially since he's calling the plays with Hartline out. But I mean, they've been fairly conservative all year and methodical the way they move the ball. So I'm kind of going against the grain on that one.
I think he knows that while he doesn't need to, I feel he doesn't need to play it safe because last year it was like, hey, we everything was rolling and we found a way. We stumbled against Michigan, but we don't need to play it safe anymore. And look what happened. They're like, we're going to be as aggressive because maybe in that Michigan game we were just playing not to lose, and look what happened and bit us. So now it's not going to happen again, and maybe Indiana was just that much of a better team. Maybe Ohio State overlooked them, but I just don't see them being conservative like that anymore. Just like we know what it takes to win. We know that playing aggressive like that, okay, it may bite us, but we're confident that it's not going to. But I also think that may ultimately play into what Miami is going to want to do. But I just don't see Ryan Day and Ohio State not playing timidly, but just playing conservatively, just playing we'll let our defense do it, because I do think that he wants to showcase the offense.
So Sydney said, can anyone score? Okay, Mike, you put yourself on the other side and you're Miami. We all know this team has performed as Carson Beck does. When he doesn't turn the ball over, they usually win. When he turns the ball over, it gets ugly. Can they afford to be a little bit more aggressive, or do they need to play it conservative against this very aggressive, very dominating Ohio State defense?
It would stand to reason that I feel like Miami should, but I think they're going to be. We know that Ohio State's going to be aggressive, so let's not take our chances. We know that we can take advantage of them, just like we did against Texas A&M. So all we have to do is, once we get the ball, we're going to get a couple stolen possessions. Just suffocate them. We know that works against the SEC. We did that last week on the road. We know we can do that against an SEC-like team in Ohio State. So I would be surprised if they try to play it, if not conservatively. That I don't think they will take the risk, because they know that it's almost like rope-a-dope. Like, let them exert all their energy. We'll be here when they make that mistake, just like Texas A&M. They're going to do something that we'll take advantage of. And if it's all of a sudden a missed assignment and a 45-yard run, if we don't miss our assignments, they can't take advantage of us. We know they're going to try and do that to us. So let's make sure that doesn't happen.
Larry Pelham says, Ole Miss and Georgia, another vote for that one. He says, how funny would it be for Georgia to lose to Widespread Pete, Hotty Toddy, and RTR?
Widespread Pete.
They love that. somebody on the YouTube chat, Bob said, "Oh yes," when we were talking about Alabama and the Alabama fans not trust Ole Miss because they just don't like Pete Golding. He said, "Oh yes, we've experienced third in Peter, so that's two that have come in and kind of." Which is why I asked. I mean, is this why people are not giving Ole Miss a shot? It's just because they don't believe Pete Golding or believe in Pete Golding?
Which is wild because that was Nick Saban's offense and Pete Golding was just running it. But, oh, no, couldn't have been Saban. Okay.
So far, I'm the only one, it seems, that's interested maybe in Oregon, Texas Tech as part of this discussion. We've got yet another one in for Ole Miss and Georgia. It would be a great story for Ole Miss to win. This is from Sarah. She says, if Ole Miss wins, it just proves that it wasn't Lane Kiffin.
Well, it's interesting. We have a text from Chill. He says, we all expect UGA and OSU to win, but I have no idea who will win the Oregon-Texas Tech game. So that is the game I'm looking forward to the most, which makes a lot of sense.
And that's how I am. And that one could – I hope that game's ultra competitive. And I think it will be. But I think we're in this thing, if you can really call them a dark horse as the 5 seed. But, man, I've been big on Texas Tech all year. Like and maybe I got a little bit of bias there because I've watched a good bit of football. And I think it'd be a great story to see them kind of come out of nowhere and continue to play.
I don't like that people just are like, that they went and bought that team. Well, I mean,
but that's the world we live in now.
Players are all intents like they're all bought and paid for now.
Every team's bought and paid for.
Right? Yeah. So they just went out and they were smart with their money. And if it works, sadly, you're probably going to see more of it. But just because they went out and bought players, Florida State bought players last season. Look how that turned out.
Yeah, they still have to mesh. Still has to be within the right culture. People still have to give more than they receive in some areas. So it all still has to work out. But, but there's also a lot of people I see, too, that don't want to see Texas Tech win because they say they bought that roster. Well, I mean, what did Oregon do? I mean, look at all 8 teams that are playing right now. They've done a good job recruiting and or in the portal and getting guys to buy into the culture. That's the world we live in. At this level of football, saying the bought rosters or whatever, I mean, that's just it is what it is.
I saw a stat that showed like how many of the players were recruited versus transfers, and Georgia had, I think it was around 90 or something else like that. But yes, okay, Georgia recruited most of their players. I mean, they didn't pay for them. Yeah, they recruited them and may not have brought them through the portal, but they still paid money to get them. So it's happening everywhere. So that we can just kind of discuss, or just completely discard that narrative. But Texas Tech, I like, to me is that wild card because even though some people have watched them, we just don't truly know what they're capable of against strong, stiff competition.
Bob on the YouTube chat says, if Bama doesn't win, I'm pulling for Ole Miss because the irony will be amazing.
Irony of Lane thinking he couldn't do a championship. Well, I guess it's not ironic. It's actually true. If Ole Miss can actually do it, Lane couldn't lead a team to a championship. They had to leave. They had to leave.
It's still hard to believe in, and I don't really care to get into the discussion of what should or could have, what Ole Miss should have done, that a coach has his team in the playoffs and he's not there. Yeah. That's not at Lane. That's just generally speaking, but that's where we are. It's a weird time in college football, that's for sure. All right, 8:41 here on McElroy and Cubelic. Ryan Haney, John Saber. We'll get more into the Alabama-Indiana game on the other side as we count you down to the college football playoff here on Jocks.
All right, welcome back. McElroy Cubelic in the morning. Jack 94.5. I'm back officially. No more get up, done. Did it. Good. Good show. Talked about Jackson Dart as an NFL quarterback. Didn't have that on my bingo card today, but why not? Let's rock and roll. Hour and 15, 16 minutes left in the show. Still so much to get to. I know you guys just had a great conversation about what game intrigues you the most. I'd like to answer that, frankly, because I look at it and I know it's strange, but the game that might be most intriguing beyond that of Alabama, and it's not the sexiest matched up by any stretch. It's not going to do the same rating that the Sugar Bowl will get. Might not even do the same rating that the Cotton Bowl will get. But guys, that Texas Tech and Oregon matchup is fascinating. Fascinating. And why do you care? Well, because you could be seeing the victor of that game in the Peach Bowl for the following week. Alabama goes and gets a win in Pasadena on Thursday. Guess what? You're playing the winner of the Orange Bowl that will be determined 12 hours later. So that to me is going to be fascinating. And I'll tell you why. Because one, I don't know what to make of Texas Tech just yet. They've played 0 teams of significance out of the Big 12. Now, I like the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is really good. I think it's a line of scrimmage league. I think it's a physical league. But there's not a lot of Big 12 passing attacks that are scaring me to death at all. There's very few, frankly. TCU, I think, has a good passing attack, but they're not crazy balanced. Like in the Big 12, you kind of have teams that pick their poison. Like BYU, they hammer the football. They want to run it, right? That's what they are. Arizona State, they want to run the football. Utah, they want to run the football. TCU wants to throw the football, but they don't have a huge threat of the run game. That's not what they are this year. There's a handful of others, but with Texas Tech, they haven't seen a team that's this balanced. Oregon can run it or throw it. And if for whatever reason, Texas Tech is getting pushed along the line of scrimmage, they have to attribute normal resources to stopping the run, which they haven't had to do this year, then what does that mean for their ability in the back end if they can't get pressure on the quarterback to slow down the passing attack for Oregon? I don't know the answer to that. I can't wait to find it out. And then on the other side, Oregon right now, statistically speaking, is a top 5 pass defense. Well, tell me this. When you play 3 or 4 games against teams that quite literally cannot throw the football, like Iowa, like Wisconsin, like Oklahoma State when they played them, like those teams literally cannot throw the football. So what is Oregon's pass defense still a top 5 unit in your eyes? Or are they a group that is maybe a touch susceptible? Maybe a group that isn't quite as good in the back end, that gave up 300 plus to their quarterbacks of USC and James Madison? I don't know the answer to that. So that to me, there are so many unknowns. Like to me right now, when you look at the ACC and the SEC, right, there's a lot of crossover. You kind of know what you're getting when the SEC plays the ACC. Like you know it, you kind of get it. You know what it's all about. So you kind of know how those teams match up. I don't know how well the Big 12 matches up. I don't know that. I don't know that at all. I don't know how well the Big 10, frankly, in some cases. Yes, we had Ohio State, Texas. I know Ohio State matches up well with everybody. We had Michigan, Oklahoma. I saw that one. So I know a little bit how the top end matches up, but that's why I think many people are fascinated with Indiana. Indiana has not beaten a high-level Big Ten football team in a really long time, or has not beaten a team that was not in the Big Ten in a really long time. Like Indiana has not gone and taken their fight to a team with superior athletic personnel. So it doesn't mean they can't. It just means I don't know. That's it. I mean, simple as that. So I think Indiana's really good. I think they're elite. Frankly, I think they have very few weaknesses. I love their style. I love the way that they mesh up defensively. I love how they play together. It's a really, really good football team. And for those of you that, if you watched Indiana, there's a lot of people that are listening to this show that will, no matter what, have the approach that Cole Cubelic has referenced multiple times on this show. They're Indiana, we're Alabama, we will win. Cole Cubelic said that for a long time, that was the message from his offensive line coach. Was it not, Say-Bear?
Use Mississippi, use Auburn. They's Mississippi State.
Exactly.
You're going to win this.
Exactly. Like, they have that decal on their helmet. We have this decal on our helmet. We're better. That's an archaic way of thinking. So if you think you're just going to show up because we're Alabama and win the game, that is not the way to approach this game. Because this is an Indiana team that has dudes. They have a lot of really good players, and they have a really, really good scheme. Like I said, very few exploitable weaknesses. But I do have questions about Indiana that remain. Because if you look at their games this year, they played Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State in the non-con. I'm not going to learn anything from those three games. With all due respect to a Kennesaw State team that is excellent and won their league and all those other things, they're a G5 football team. So throw it out the window. There's a team that beat Illinois convincingly. I'm not sold on Illinois. I haven't been sold on Illinois in years. I think they're a solid football team. I don't think they're elite. I think they're really well coached. I love Brett Bielema. But I don't think they're elite by any stretch. I think Iowa's a really sound, solid football team. And they went on the road and they beat Iowa. Good, solid win. I don't think Iowa's going to win a lot of track meets from an athletic standpoint. They beat Oregon. Got a ton of respect for Oregon. That was on October 11th. On October 11th, Oregon still had guys, a vast majority of their roster, by the way, very young. A lot of those guys that were playing in that game were playing just their sixth college football game as a starter. And they lost that game at home, and that's a tough one to swallow for sure. They played Mississippi, they played Michigan State, UCLA, at Maryland, at Penn State. Penn State was able to get after them a little bit. They have comparable dudes. They have guys that can play. They have pros on their roster. Wisconsin, we've seen Wisconsin this year. Tough to kind of gauge, frankly, with what Wisconsin has. Purdue, and yes, they beat Ohio State, but if you go back and watch that Ohio State game, Ohio State was at times maybe their own worst enemy. Ohio State left some points on the field in that game, and maybe it's a different result. But I don't know. I genuinely don't know how Indiana will match up against a team that is not built to win in the Big Ten. I don't know that. Then again, I also know this about Alabama. I know Alabama has shown some flaws this year. I know it's been less than perfect. I know it's been a challenge at times to consistently run the football. I know early in the year, quarterback mobility hurt them. I know that early in the year, run fits against Georgia, against Vanderbilt, against some others was a challenge. I think Alabama's defense from where they were early in the season to where they're at now, night and day, completely different unit. Excellent, excellent job by Kane Womack and his staff. But I also think that when Alabama was at their best this season, it was when they played with nothing to lose, when they were the aggressor, when everyone counted them out, when everyone talked about how bad they were, how they struggled with this, how they're going to go to Athens and get run, how they're going to struggle with 11 a.m. kick at Missouri. That's going to be a hard game. We all acknowledge it was going to be a hard game. Oh, we've got to go on the road to Auburn. Oh, I don't know about this Tennessee passing attack. Yes, they were their own worst enemy against Oklahoma. That was a challenge. But if the team that shows up in the second half against Oklahoma shows up in the Rose Bowl for 4 quarters, I'm telling you, Indiana's going to be in it for a dogfight. It's going to be a beast. I think it's going to be a great game. I really do. I think it's going to require dang near perfection. Man, that's why you go to Alabama. You don't go to Alabama to have your B-minus game and win by 10. You go to Alabama for historically significant moments like this that people will remember forever. To go throw a punch. This game feels so similar to me to when we in 2009 had to go play against the Florida Gators in the SEC championship game. New era of Alabama football, right? But Florida, they're number one team. They got the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Like, the roster's perfect. They're superstars everywhere. It feels so similar to that. On that day, we played a perfect game. And we beat them by 20. And it was not competitive. We could have scored more if we wanted to. And we didn't. That's going to be the level of effort that's required in this game. And that's the level of expectation that you should have as a player. Lean into it, embrace it, enjoy it. Because when you walk in that stadium as someone that's done it, there's nothing cooler than looking up and realizing that you are playing in the dang Rose Bowl.
Even if it's
and
pouring
for those
raining?
of you that are going, I'm jealous.
I just hope the rain doesn't sully some of that, because it is beautiful out there. But if it's pouring down raining, that won't be fun.
It's supposed to rain?
Yeah, like heavily.
Oh, get out of here. No chance. It's the Rose Bowl. Can't rain at the Rose Bowl. I'm looking at this weather. Okay. Thursday, 1 o'clock, precipitation, light showers, 90% precipitation. It's fine. Who cares?
California
Let it
rain.
rip anyways. It's California rain. It's barely rain. All right, when we come back, continue to break down the quarterfinal matchups next on Mac and Cube.